Reading Everyday presents you to a new episode of the Bloodwater Mysteries Snatched. Chapter 1 Poison Honey. Elisa watched the blood drip from her nose to the grass. She was on her hands and knees, hair covering her face like a veil. The blood looked black in the fading light of dusk. Funny, it didn't even hurt. What would she look like in the morning? She heard the voice, like poisoned honey. Elisa, leave me alone. Her voice sounded wrong. Her lips felt thick and mushy. Are you okay, sweetie? She said nothing. He knew she wasn't okay. He knew everything. He even knew that what would happen next. She would clean herself up, and tomorrow she would make up some stories, and they would pretend it had never happened. She lied all the time. Sometimes she didn't even know what was the truth anymore. She lived in two worlds, and sometimes they were the same, but more often they were different. One world was light and airy. The other one was dark and scary. He touched her shoulder. She swung her arm, and knocked his hand aside. Go away, she shouted. He was standing over her. She could see the tips of his shoes. She closed her eyes. She could hear him breathing. And then, after what seemed a long time, she heard his footsteps fading away. She touched her hands to her face, then looked at it. Her fingers were dark with blood, but she felt no pain. She never did anymore, but this time it was bad. She had never before been hit so hard. Her face would be mess. How would she explain it this time? Chapter 2 Girl Talk. Last Friday, a Bloodwater High student was mysteriously attacked and left for dead in Riverfront Park. The victim, Alisa Kamanda, was found dazed and bleeding near the park entrance. She was taken to Mercy's hospital and treated for cuts and bruises, and for being scarred half to death. Although she has lived in Bloodwater only since the beginning of the school year, Alisa is a member of the tennis team and lead actress in the school production of the Circle. She is admired and well liked by all, which makes the reason for this improved attack extremely bizarre. Since the unfortunate and nearly tragic incident, students are advised to carry large handguns and shoot all strangers on sight. Rooney Ford at what she had written in her notebook. Not exactly a trimple of investigate report. In fact, it was pretty much what had been printed in the local newspaper that weekend. With a few embellishments, she needed a fresh angle, and it had to be good. It wasn't every day she had a real crime to report. Rooney was sitting in the warm autumn sun on the steps in the front of Bloodwater High School, along with several other students. Most of them were eating their lunch. Rooney did not eat lunch. She had given it up in an effort to lose weight. So far, it wasn't working. She scrawled at her notebook, trying not to think about food, and made a few changes in her story. She crossed out the words left for dead and well liked by all. The first was probably not true. since the injuries hadn't been that severe. It was only Monday, and Alisa was already back in school. As for the second item, Alisa was not terrifiedly popular. She was involved in plenty of school activities, but she didn't seem to have a lot of friends. This made Rooney like her better. Not being terrific popular herself, Alisa did, however, have a boyfriend, Manura Wellington. Marissa was the star of the basketball team and one of the best looking guys in the school. Rooney left in the bit about shooting all strangers on sight. Rooney always made it a point to give Mr. Splendor, the school principal, something to delete. She was making a few more changes in her article when an attractive blonde girl wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying a lime green designer backpack over her shoulder came through the front door and trotted down the steps. Rooney jumped to her feet. "Hey, Elisa!" Elisa Campbell stopped at the bottom of the steps and looked back. She waited for Rooney to catch up to her. "Got a minute?" Rooney asked. Elisa was wearing a lot of makeup, but not enough to cover the cuts on her lip. "Not really," she said. "My mom's picking me up for a doctor appointment." She started at Rooney through her sunglasses. "Do I know you?" "My name's Rooney. Listen, I heard about what happened to you. You and everybody else in the galaxy. How are you feeling?" Elisa lifted her sunglasses to reveal a huge purple and yellow bruise around her right eye. "How does it look like I feel?" Kind of not so great," Rooney said. "Thanks a lot." Elisa lowered her glasses and started walking away. "Wait a sec." Rooney fell in beside her. "I was wondering if I could talk to you about what happened." "Why? Are you some sort of accident geek?" "Actually, I'm an investigator for the Bloodwater pump." "The pump?" Elisa laughed. "The school newspaper?" "That's right. The police don't want me to talk to reporters, not even for that little rag." "Little rag?" Rooney felt her blood pressure rise. "Why not?" Because why?" "Because they don't want anybody to mess up their investigation. That's why." "Did you see who hit you?" "No, it was dark. Look, I told you, I'm not supposed to talk to reporters. Do the police have any suspects at all?" Elisa stopped and turned on Rooney. "You're kind of pushing, aren't you?" "I'm a reporter," said Rooney. "It's what I do." "Well, why don't you go do it someplace else?" "I gotta go. My mom's here." She pointed at the SUV parked at the curb. The woman behind the wheel looked like an old version of Elisa. Thin, blonde, stylish, and snotty. Even their hairstyle were the same. Elisa's mom learned that on her horn. Elisa turned away from Rooney and started for the car. "Wait!" Rooney reached out and grabbed Elisa's elbow. "I said, leave me alone!" Elisa swiggled her backpack. Rooney saw it coming, but not in time. The heavy pack hit her in the chest and knocked her backwards. She landed hard on her bolt. "Hey!" Rooney scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. She felt herself losing control, even as a little voice inside her said, "Count to 10, girl." She was charging at Elisa, who was walking away as if nothing had happened. Rooney grabbed Elisa's backpack, saying, "Wait a minute." Elisa turned and pushed Rooney, but Rooney didn't let go of her backpack. They both toppled and fell onto the ground. Alisa let out a shriek and kicked at Rooney's head. But this time, Rooney was ready for her. She ducked the kick and rolled on top of Alisa, pinning her arms to the sidewalk. I just want to ask you a couple questions, she shouted. That was when Alisa really started yelling.